Hi, thanks for stopping by. I'm Amelia and I'm going to tell you how I passed the NASM exam on my first trial. If you're watching this, I'm guessing that you are either just about to have your exam or you're thinking about signing up for the NASM course. Either way, welcome. I'm going to tell you how I studied for my exam and what I think you should be focusing on before your exam. Alright, so this video is going to be 4 parts. Part 1, I'll be talking about myself, just to give you kind of a overall sense of where I was coming from so you can compare yourself in terms of starting point. Second part, I actually had both my exam and my CPR and AED online remotely. So I'm gonna give you a sense of what that experience was like. Third part will be telling you how I actually studied for my exam. And the fourth part, which is, I know why you're here, what you should be focusing on before your exam. All right, so let's start with part 1. Quick about me, I'm an actress, which honestly, last time I used my brain was probably in theater school 7 years ago, which basically means that I wasn't using my brain. English is my second language, Norwegian is my first. There was a lot of words that I just didn't know in English. Basic words that you've known since kindergarten. Pancreas, blood vessels, stuff like that. So that was just making my process much slower and tedious. And on a side note, I'm a visual learner, so some of the tips that I'll be giving you will be based upon that. So this is my first fitness certificate. I don't have any degree, any health or fitness degree. I guess all I have is just, I'm very passionate about fitness and my own personal experience doing weightlifting, I guess. So I'm saying all of this to encourage you because if I can, then you can too. And don't get me wrong, like the exam wasn't super easy or anything like that. The exam is tricky. It's 2 hours long. It's 120 questions, and I believe 20 of those questions are kind of test questions, so you're not really getting graded on it. And it took me exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes to finish my test, which gave me enough time to answer everything and go back and look through all of my answers. All right, so part 2, what it was like to do the exam, the CPR, and the AED online remotely. I signed up for the self-study and I already had the actual book because I bought it a year and a half ago or a year and a half before signing up for the course. And I kept thinking that I was gonna read the book, and it's been in my bookshelf since then. In February 2020, I finally signed up for the course and my exam was the 3rd of May this year. So for the CPR and AED, right now you can actually do it remotely, which is awesome because it's only $30, and if you don't have a dolly you're gonna have to purchase that, so that will be an extra $30, but still it's $60, so versus I think 100 or 120 for the live CPR AED. So basically you call NASM, you let them know that you want to do your exam and your CPR AED online, and they will sign you up for pro trainings, and then all you have to do is to go online on their webpage, protrainings.com, and just schedule yourself. After signing up, you also have to purchase the dolly, unless you already have one, I think. So it took about 4 days, I think, before the dolly came here, and it's like a paper box dolly with a head on, and it comes with a little AED box. The online course is super easy, very great instructor, easy to follow. And then for your actual test, it's kind of like a Zoom chat. So you have an instructor and you have a few other students. I had two other students, and we kind of just rotated answering questions that the instructor was asking. And then we would take turn kind of demonstrating on the dolly. So I found out right after that I had gotten my CPR AED and got the online card right after the class, and the actual card came in the mail I think a week later. And the NASM exam was done through ProctorU, which honestly was a little bit stressful at first because though I had checked before that my Wi-Fi was good and that my camera and microphone was working, somehow I was still having a hard time on the day of my exam getting online. And my exam was at 7:45 a.m. and somehow I didn't get online until 8:15 a.m. which I thought they would either give me 1.5 hours for my exam, so taking away 30 minutes, or that they would actually just kick me off the exam for coming in late. But they ended up giving me my full 2 hours. So then when I finally got online, I had to show the proctor my room. So I showed her my walls, the walls on the opposite side of the room, the ceiling, the floor, shelves underneath my desk. I had a mirror behind me, so basically The proctor could watch me on the webcam, but she could also watch me in the mirror behind me to see what I was watching, and she had access to my screen, so basically you can't cheat. And then I had to show her my phone, and she told me to leave the phone someplace in the room far away from where I was sitting, but I would physically have to get up from my chair in order to look at my phone. And during your exam, you're not allowed to leave the room, no one can enter the room. And two things that was quite frustrating, I thought, was that you're not allowed to make any sounds, and that's how my brain works. When I'm concentrating, I need to be able to speak out the words. You know, that's how I concentrate. So that was a little bit irritating. You have to be dead silent, and then you're not allowed to scribble, which is another way my brain works, is that I scribble when I concentrate. Trying to remembering stuff, I have to scribble. So no pen, no paper, no nothing. So the reason why you're here. I'm gonna tell you how I studied for my exam and what you should be focusing on. So number one, do get all of the free apps out there. There's a few good ones that you can pay for as well. I just got the free one. Those are great. Practice your exam. And honestly, I did have a few questions on my exam that were exactly the same questions asked from my test exam. So familiarize yourself with the type of questions from the test exams. You might get them on your exam. I did read the book. Module 2 to 5 was quite hard for me, so I did spend some time on YouTube watching Crash Course. Shout out to Crash Course, thank you. Crash Course has tons of awesome videos on how the body works and covers a lot of the topics from module 2 to 5. So check that out. All right, printed out all of the summaries or all the chapter reviews. I marked whatever concepts I was having a hard time understanding or remembering, or whatever I thought would kind of be on the test. And I would keep this in my backpack, and whenever I had downtime and, you know, had some extra time to read, like in the sauna, I would bring this out and I would read. So if you don't want to read the book, print out the summaries and go through those chapter reviews, because whatever is on your exam is going to be from the reviews. It took me way too long to realize that the domains, how NASM splits all of these modules into domains, and just which domains are more important than others. And when I finally started reading the domains, I was able to connect stuff more, because after finishing the books and reading the notes and all of that, I still felt like I was struggling quite a bit with the content. But then reading the domains, my brain finally started to connect the material. So if you're not reading the book, quickly go over the summaries and focus on the domains. Even check out the podcast. The podcast is like an hour long. There's a podcast attached to domain 1 to 5, slightly tedious. They will give you a understanding of what kind of questions could be asked on the test and what specifically you should prepare for. So, the important stuff. Here it comes, the juicy stuff. What you need to know before your exam. First thing, I know you've heard it before, overhead squat assessment. You need to know everything on that sheet. What muscle is possibly underactive and underactive for each compensation. I also had questions about the single leg squat and the push and pull assessment as well. So you kind of want to know all of the assessments. I'm going to show you what I did. Because there's so many assessments and a lot of muscles to remember, I wrote down the overhead squat assessment, the single leg squat assessment, push and pull, and the gait. Then I wrote down the compensation, overactive and underactive, and I would lay them out on the floor and I would just kind of compare them to each other. And another thing that I did, because I'm a visual learner, I split each compensation up and I brought them into my morning stretch routine. So for example, on Monday, I would pretend to have compensation knees coming in, and I would spend my morning routine stretching whatever was overactive. I would strengthen whatever would have been underactive if I actually had knees coming in. Then on Tuesday, feet coming out. Wednesday, excessive forward lean or whatever. And I would go through each compensation throughout the weeks until I finally felt comfortable or confident about what is potentially overactive and underactive under each compensation, which is also a great way of learning the muscles. So if you're having a hard time remembering the specific muscles in the body, that could be a good way of not only learning the assessments and what's possibly underactive and overactive, but it's a great way of learning the muscles as well. And something I just remembered now, you want to know purpose of each assessment. Not only the ones that I just mentioned, but you want to know purpose of the shark skill test, whatever. All of the tests mentioned in the book, even in the E chapter, you want to know the purpose of it. Not necessarily how the assessment is done, but the reason for doing the assessment is what you want to know. Next thing, you want to know how to cue an exercise, how to regress and progress each exercise. The easiest way of learning this is to just open up your book, take a look at every single exercise in the book, and read the description. Some of the exercises will have a little info box with progression and regression. So just make a note out of that. I don't think you have to spend too much time focusing on the cueing because I think they're pretty obvious. One of the questions that I was asked is, your client is having a hard time with a push-up. To help your client out, would you either put your client on its knees, or would you put your client's feet on a stability ball, or your client's hands on a stability ball? So I think cueing exercises, if you've just read through them, it shouldn't be too hard for you. On your course page, under personal training resources, there's like a series of videos with cueing that you can watch, and those are very helpful. I had a lot of questions on where certain exercises belong within the OPT model, and an easy thing to remember is that stabilization is usually single leg, anything single leg or stabilization ball, and strength is oftentimes just exercises that we do for weightlifting, and power is oftentimes anything medicine ball or just high intensity interval kind of training. But there's a lot of exceptions, which did throw me off quite a bit. So what I did, I made these little flashcards, and I split the cards into 3 categories: stabilization, strength, and power. And then within each phase, I split the cards up into core, balance, plyo, SAQ, full body resistance, and then shoulder, back, etc. So if we turn the balance stabilization card around, we'll see single leg arm leg motion, single leg balance reach, single leg hip internal external rotation, single leg windmill, single leg lift and chop, single leg throw and catch. All of the exercises that I found in the book that was listed as a stabilization exercise under balance. And if you're looking through these cards and you're having a hard time remembering them all, then another way of doing it could be just design yourself a workout program and do stabilization Monday, strength Tuesday, power Wednesday, and then you do 1 set, 1 rep of each exercise within that phase. That could be a nice way of getting a muscle memory on the exercise, how you do them, and where they belong within the OPT model. A little extra thing that I did, I just had a hard time understanding the joint movements. So I made this little flashcard. I split the card into the 3 planes. If we look at the middle here, that's the frontal plane. Underneath the frontal plane, I've written down what sort of joint movements could happen within the frontal plane. So abduction, adduction, lateral flex, eversion, inversion. And then underneath there, what specific joints are able to do these motions within the plane. So that's a nice way of just seeing it all on one page. And you can make this card by checking out module 5, the video on your course page, and there's a video called joint movement. The last thing I'm going to tell you is that you need to know the acute variables, and I don't know why you need to know all of them. Like, I'm number dyslexic, I swear to God, and learning all of those numbers are just not possible. So what I did, I split up all of the exercise types into a sheet. So we have core, plyo, SAQ, balance, flexibility, resistance. And then I split the exercise type into the phases. So we have phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the reps, sets, tempo, intensity, rest, frequency, duration, and exercise selection. And what I was able to do was to kind of get an overview of similarities and whatever differed within each phase and exercise type. So for instance, for core, we can see that strength, endurance, hypertrophy, maximal strength, and power all have 8 to 12 reps, and they have 2 to 3 sets and a medium tempo. So this was a cool way of just putting it all together. And I will say that on my exam, I was only asked acute variables from the core and the resistance type of training. I think those are more important for your exam. That's it, that's what I have. And hopefully this will be helpful to you. And I wish you the best of luck on your exam. If I forgot to cover anything or if you have any questions on my exam, leave me a comment below and I'll get back to you. And let me know whenever your exam is. Have a good day, stay safe and stay healthy.